43-year-old female, dark brown hair. I have a blurred background because my room is very messy. So saving you all from that. And yeah, so I'm one of the, you can skip ahead there, Isabel, please. So yeah, so I said we kind of agreed as a volunteer group that this might be a good idea to start with a bit of an intro or a glossary, just to establish a baseline of understanding. So what do we mean by AI and automation in mental health products and services? And we just felt this would be a good idea to help with the discussion later. Can skip there, please. So yeah, so just to establish, I'm definitely not an expert in this. This was just something we said would be a good baseline to start with. And I'm coming from the same position of just wondering what it all means and knowing that, you know, there's a lot there to understand. So apologies to any real experts on the call. I'm sure lots of you will know a lot of this already, but Isabel suggested a lovely term, the beginner's mindset. And so, you know, if we approach this with openness, we can all learn from each other, what we know, what we don't know, and make sure there isn't anything we're skipping out on. So I can skip again. Thanks as well. So what is AI? So I asked ChatGPT to give me a definition. And I mean, I think everybody knows artificial intelligence. You can skip again there, sorry. There's a, yeah, so obviously there's a mental health crisis and we want to use any tools at our disposal to help improve access to help. And I think a good way of thinking about AI, it is just such a tool. It's there, it's got huge potential. And I suppose, skip again, sorry. I suppose the important thing, it has huge potential, but the important thing is for us to be thinking about is the balance between the risk versus the benefits in how we use it. Okay, so just thinking about, so firstly, the how is AI being used? And I suppose the first point I wanted to get across here is just that it's multifunctional. It's there's a quote there from Andrew about it being electricity. It's a multifunctional. It's not just yeah, thanks. It's used for many different things. And I suppose the point in talking about this now is that sometimes people have just one, you know, just chatbots in their heads or one aspect of it, but it's really, it can be used in so many different ways. Creating pictures, it can be used for telling farm machinery where to plant seeds. So I suppose one that we're familiar with in the field of mental health is natural language processing. And this is where the computer makes sense of human language. And this can, you know, this is useful in mental health, as we know, like the very first AI created was a therapist chatbot. And so, but just to make the point that there are lots of other uses as well. It's being used in image detection and facial recognition to detect emotions, speech monitoring during sessions and use by ESO, and predictions and patterns of behavior, which Andrew will talk about later. And so this might be something that could be a good discussion for the unconference later on, is that this could be something that we could collect as a group, is the ways in which AI is being used across mental health and the potentials. Okay, could skip there. You skip 2 actually. Yeah. Okay, so another point to get across is just that AI is very complex and there are many different subsets, different terms and descriptions, and a lot of these overlap each other. And so one core term is machine learning, and the machine learning is the ability for to learn patterns in data. So for example, if you show a computer many times what an apple looks like, it'll start to be able to detect apples in other photos. And then there's a subfield of machine learning, which is deep learning, which is where you don't need to show the computer all the apple pictures. It starts to learn to look for them itself. And this, in another term you might have heard of, is neural networks. So just skipping on there, then within deep learning, there are again many subtypes and different models that are used, like supervised, unsupervised. And this is getting really complicated at this point, but it's just to make the point that the level of bias and potential for misunderstanding that we see from these different models can be different depending on the different levels, and that, yeah, there is detail in there. And so I suppose that this is the part that is the reason that we're all talking about AI now, is it's become much more powerful due to, I suppose, increased computer power, the availability of the large data sets for these models to learn from, and then advancement in the techniques. And then just give on one more. Yeah, so and further subset, and this is yeah, an important one to bring up, is generative AI. And this is where the computer is able to generate entirely new content. So like for the apple example, it would be able to not just recognize other apples, but create entirely new apples. And also it might create wrong apples, things that aren't really apples. So, you know, generative AI is things like ChatGPT, which, you know, you're able to have entirely new conversations. So hugely powerful and loads of potential, but it's just important to note that not all chatbots are generative. There are lots of other types that are using rules-based that aren't even machine learning, or maybe a combination. And so when we're talking about risk and mental health, it's just to get that idea out there that there's a big difference between generative and non-generative. Okay, let's skip again. Yes, so just thinking again about the risk versus benefits, and this again might be an interesting topic for us to bring up, but starting to think about these ideas now, but we could maybe discuss this further together in the conference. And so just one last thing, just one last slide as well. Just one last idea just to get people to start thinking about is the idea that the risk changes quite a lot when you think about the levels that the AI is being used removed from the patient. So the idea, I think when we think about some of the chatbots, they're working directly on the patient, but that AI can also be used as an aid to the therapist, or even an aid to people developing products or services. And so it's just to think about when there's guardrails there, you know, you can still have a human talking to a human, but AI can be used to still improve access to the help. And it just, the risk is very different depending on those levels.